All right, so we're all set to begin our session. Good morning to one and all. A very warm welcome to BDB Book Club. My name is Jitender Balani, and I will take you through our today's session. And we are extremely glad to connect with all of you on a Saturday morning. Before we begin, I'll just briefly introduce BDB India Private Limited, particularly for those who are joining us for the first time. BDB India Private Limited is a market research and business consulting firm founded in 1989. Through its three divisions, industrial, healthcare, and agriculture, BDB aims at providing a customized business research solutions to its customers in India and globally. BDB Book Club is a social initiative of BDB India Private Limited. The book club was founded in October 2010, and it aims at providing a unique forum for its members to discuss one professional publication every month. The book club offers an opportunity to dwell into a wide range of professional publications. Members can expect to explore topics such as leadership, management, entrepreneurship, personal development, several industrial trends, and much more. Each month, a specific book is chosen as a central focus of discussion, and we allow the participants to engage in a meaningful conversation, seek clarity, and share their perspectives with the book author. Over the years, BDB Book Club has hosted some special book reading sessions for its members, which has been graced by revered authors such as Dr. Shashi Tharoor, Dr. Mashilkar, Mr. Ravi Venkatesan, Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, and Mr. Prakash Iyer, just to name a few. Please note for the audience that your mic and camera are intentionally but temporarily disabled so as to avoid any disturbance during the session. Since we are going to have a session wherein there is a question and answer session separately assigned. The structure of the session goes this way that we would be having a kind of a discussion, a setting up context by the author. Then followed by that, we will be having a question and answer session wherein you can interact and ask any questions or queries or share your experience by raising the hand using the icons that are provided in Microsoft Teams. Our team will help you in enabling your mic and camera once you raise the hand, or even you can ask the questions in the comment box. And that queries we will coordinate and address to the author, and that can be addressed. In the interest of the time, if there are any questions that are left out, we can actually look after to handle them offline also. So with this, we would move directly into our what the topic and the today's session it is. As I mentioned that we cover a wide range of topics. Uh, but today's the topic that the book covers is largely related to the economics, society, geopolitical, and cultural factors that influence the nation's development. As you all must be knowing that we live in a very uncertain and unpredictable time. The last 2 decades, if particularly we focus, we have seen some significant economic issues, geopolitical issues, and also global financial crisis, which is pretty evident and looking, particularly after the escalation of tensions between Russia and Ukraine. And also over the last 3 4 years that we have also witnessed a one in a century event like pandemic. We are also witnessing some rising China tensions, and also some of the economies which are already showing a signs of weakening. Okay, and not only just the any small and mid economies, but even the larger economies are have shown the signs of weakening, and that is something which is a signs of a worry at a global level. This book particularly addresses those issues, those topics. The book reflects the ever increasing inequality in our society and the possibilities of a economic collapse. The book also argues some of the different and also suggest different economic models which will facilitate an inclusive, equitable, and an ethical economic growth for nation and the entire globe at large. In a rapidly changing economy and uncertain world, we are seeing this book particularly. In fact, I would like to I hope this is clear. uh, this particular book highlights the at a very macro level what are the different approaches that can be used for creating a global economy for sustainable use. Don't go by the size of the book, but because the way the book has been organized and structured really makes it very simple to complete this in a stipulated time. As it's something which is entire guide that countries may use for their economic decision making. And I would also like to special mention that in it takes a long time also to structure and bring this book out. And today we have an author who not individually but his team, his family has actually contributed to bring this book. And today we are going to discuss on the same book. And to present and take us through the book, we have the author himself. I would like to introduce Dr. Girish Jakhotiya, who is present here. Welcome, Dr. Girish Jakhotiya, to the BDB Book Club. He is a renowned international business consultant and economist who has supported 60 plus clients outside India. He's also, provides his services to several corporates in India. He has some reputed books to his name. Particularly, if I would mention that strategy and finance is one of the popular corporate world book that he has published, and also the strategic planning, execution, and measurement. He is an advisor for Indian and foreign companies like Tata's, Mahindra's, British Petroleum, Siemens, Godrej, and there is a long list if we go about it. He has facilitated uh, to the global community to a large extent. And as I mentioned, that his family is also involved. He and his wife, Manjri, they run a consulting firm in Mumbai. And his wife has also contributed significantly as far as the editing this book is concerned. So it's a good collective effort that it has been shown, and something that how family can get together to bring out such a resourceful and contentful book. That is something which is really interesting and worth appreciating. uh, Dr. Jakhotiya, he while working with University of Mumbai, he has received some eminent awards. He has been awarded with Best Young Indian Professor Award for his research and teaching excellence. His another book, which is soon will be published, is titled by Aspiring to be CEO. That is something which I feel, for your next book, we will definitely look forward to it. He's also a well-known author in Marathi. That is something which I would like to, particularly I was amazed by. He is also a recipient of 12 literary awards in Marathi. His book, Krishna Niti, is something which is very popular, and he's also a frequent article. His article frequently gets published in Sakal as well, wherein he talks about the manufacturing sector. Apart from his work, he loves chess and loves singing as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome uh, a very professional, a very dynamic person today with us, who will take us to some of the very interesting topics, and of course, also a very complex. But the way he brings out is something that we would be eager to hear from him. Welcome, Dr. Girish Chakotia, to the BDB Book Club.
Thank you.
Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Balani. Uh, Good morning to all of you, friends. I think it is my humble duty. I must express my gratitude to the BDB Book Club, especially BDB India Private Limited, Mr. Money of this organization. I must mention that my friend Mr. Marker from Godrej and Boys he connected me with Mr. Balani and the BDB book club, and that is how it is happening today. So my sincere thanks to Mr. Balani. Okay. Also, my thanks probably for overrating my performance as an author. Uh, I think only readers should, evaluate the work of an author. Let me come to the subject because we need to look at the subject in a I would say very simple manner, because most of us we have a feeling that economics could be very boring, a very tough subject, a very dry subject. It is not so, for a very simple reason that economics is basically a social science. You can't isolate economics from society. And I could realize that during my journey of last 38 years, especially in the corporate world, and having got connected with many multinational companies. That was my special advantage, getting data of different economies worldwide. I studied 14 influential economies to write my book, which include, of course, the USA, China, South Korea, Russia, then countries like England, France, Germany, Italy, Saudi Arabia, India, Indonesia, Brazil, South Africa, and so on. I use the word influence, good and bad, both. And I could come to a very honest conclusion. A common man is not happy anywhere in the world. There could be a debate on defining a common man, but then I think all of us understand who is a common man. A common man, an American common man, is not happy. Maybe even on the west coast of USA, which is supposed to be very rich, very, very industrious, but a common man there is not happy. Roughly, I would say 90 to 95% of American Indians are not very happy today with the economic modeling that the Americans have been pursuing. But then interestingly, in communist China, again, my advantage is 3-4 of my clients, they have factories, plants in China. So the ground reality is available to us instead of excessively depending on the media. So an average Chinese, maybe I would say middle class Chinese, is also not happy. Now this takes me to the next level of conclusion, that why do we make so much fuss about isms? When I say isms, capitalism, communism, socialism, I have gone through all these isms collectively, rigorously, closely, and again could come to a conclusion. What is very, very important for a sustainable, inclusive economic growth is only humanism. One can wonder, one can imagine if there were no political boundaries, if there were no too many religions influencing the globe, if there was no a single feeling that I must control the globe, the global economy, then the globe could have been a great family. जैसे हम कहते हैं वसुधैव कुटुंबकम, the entire Vasudha, the entire Prithvi, the entire globe is one family. But then that is not practically happening. Now, I have been researching on this subject, I would say, for more than 2 decades now. And then a few years back, I started writing with a very support from my wife, as it was mentioned. She edited each and every page of this book. Being a management consultant, and that too a strategic consultant, I believe questions are important, but solutions are more important. Very often we Indians get into a lot of intellectual debate and discussion, as Professor Amartya Sen to mention, earlier. So I thought I should try to offer solutions if there are economic issues, socio-economic issues. Now, let me make a quick reference. Those who love economics may agree with me. Adam Smith, well-known economist, known to be father of economics. And then thereafter, there was Lord Keynes, also known to be father of modern economics. Adam Smith was, lesser an economist, but more a philosopher. Of course, again, you can't isolate philosophy from economics. For a very simple reason, obvious reason, one can imagine what is the religious philosophy of Saudi Arabia. Therefore, impact of Islam on economics, impact of Buddhism on economics, Christianity economics, Hinduism economics, Judaism economics. There is a philosophy. Okay, so when I went through these books, these authors during my college days, I gathered a feeling: open economy, free economy, entrepreneurship, capital, modern capital. Okay, the importance of capital. These things are important. Even Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, I'm making a reference. I wrote a book on him in Marathi also. He made a mention to his followers, and that was about entrepreneurship. That was about creating wealth. Even Narayan Murthy, okay, he was working with the Patni group in Bengaluru with a little communist philosophy. But then one funny morning he realized communism says equal distribution of wealth. But then Mr. Murthy realized, where is wealth? To distribute wealth, one has to first create wealth. And that especially didn't happen for many, many years in West Bengal. Okay, for the reasons known to us. Coming back to the subject of the book. So when I saw the writings, when I read the writings by Adam Smith to Lord Keynes to Professor Amartya Sen, and the very latest one writing on capital by a French author, okay, the writings, they come to a conclusion on one side that freedom, individual freedom is very important. But then there is another conclusion, and the conclusion is about the widening gap between the rich and the poor. A lot of discussion has been done, okay, about American economy, the year 2007, the collapse of American capital market, capital institutions, etc. But if you go back as a researcher reader, you will find that the very decay of the American economy started in 1980 itself, 1980. You know the reason? The reason comes back to corporate finance, the financial world of the corporates, a concept called shareholder value appreciation. The value appreciation, wealth appreciation for the owners of a company. Yes, important. I agree. But then what do you do for shareholder value appreciation, especially when there are a good number of other stakeholders equally important, right from the government, nation, customers, suppliers, distributors, etc., etc. The shareholder value appreciation was excessively emphasized not only by the American economists and the corporate world, also by the American government, American senators. And to appreciate this shareholder value, what was needed was control costs, reduce costs, etc., etc. And therefore, most of the American well-known companies, manufacturing companies, they started putting up their manufacturing bases outside America. I love innovation. I believe in innovation. I'm a holder of quite a few copyrights. No, innovation, manufacturing innovation is possible. Okay, if it is close to manufacturing setup. I make a humble statement. During last 3 decades, except the service sector, companies like Amazon or Microsoft, in the manufacturing zone, I do not find any breakthrough research, breakthrough innovation that was done by the Americans collectively. The other reality is I respect most of the American economists for their research rigor. But then I've been observing that economic research by the American economist has been, vertical, micro, in depth. It has been in depth, but very, very vertical. Okay, not so horizontal. Like, the story of an elephant. One would describe the tail of an elephant, leg of an elephant, okay, stomach of an elephant, but the entire elephant is not visible. Therefore, when the decay started in 1980, okay, of the American economy, it was not comprehensively, completely realized by the American economists. All those dependent, independent, interdependent economic factors, social factors were not well connected. And therefore, then we found the visible collapse of the capital market in 2007, which impacted the entire globe. The political economics, the politics of economics is also interesting. I'm just briefing to you. In 1980, the USA could realize that its socio-economic enemy is going to be USSR of those days. The Soviet Russia with all its huge components, political components. And therefore, America started supporting another communist country, China. It welcomed China to the global economy, the global setup of economy. It is so interesting. A capitalist country supports a communist country, maybe because there is a common enemy called Russia. Okay, again, working on different types of isms. China very intelligently, cunningly took overall advantage of this American support, expanded its manufacturing base, its economy, infrastructure, right from 1980 to 95. It didn't hurry in becoming member of the WTO. We became member of WTO actively before China. But what China did, it worked on its internal infrastructure, corporate world, capital, banking system, etc. And then when it realized that it can compete in the global arena, it became member of WTO. And then we know the story. I don't want to really elaborate. China took an overall advantage of WTO mechanism. When I look at WTO, World Trade Organization, again, this is my humble, real, honest submission here. When these developed economies realize, including the European, US, Japan, South Korea, that their rate of growth in GDP is not wonderful. They have their own internal structural problems. There are many structural problems in the American economy, which I have elaborated in my book. Now, when they realize that they are not growing, the people are not happy, their per capita income is not very impressive, etc. Then they thought of a mechanism called WTO. How do we involve the developing nations, underdeveloped nations, the third world, so that we get a bigger market? But then they also define their own rules. When I look at WTO as an institution, I do not call it as an institution. For me, it is an organization. There is a difference between organization and institution. Organization is made of people of some common interest. They come together contractually, work on their interest, follow certain rules, and get away. There is no bonding as such. That is organization. Whereas institution, okay, people come together, grow together. There is a bondage. There is an ideological bondage, and therefore an institution is much, much more important. WTO is not an institution. Also, WTO's very conceptual ideological base has been an open trade, irrespective of the strength of the participating economies. Fortunately, the developing nations like Brazil, South Africa, India, China, we could realize the game of WTO. And there again, the what you call rich economies, they realize that WTO is not delivering enough. If you remember the statements made by people like Mr. Trump, the earlier American president, about the WTO fiasco, WTO mechanism. Okay, all these are indicative of what? A growing frustration. Now, if this is the background of an organization called WTO, how do we look at the global economy? Why? Because there is a growing threat of geopolitical issues. As Mr. Balani rightly mentioned to us, the present war between Ukraine and Russia. Okay, maybe what is happening between Ukraine and Russia, conceptually, theoretically, one cannot hold Russia responsible alone. Agreed. Okay, there can be a different view about the Europeans, the American game plan, China's involvement, and the way we Indians have been treating Russia for our oil advantage. The point here is, I'm not a prophet that I should be making a prophecy, but then when I was doing this socio-economic analysis, I could look at 5, 6 trigger points of a possible horrible third world war. And one was Ukraine, Russia, increase of Poland. The second one was the South China Sea, China and its neighbors, including South Korea, Japan, India, especially South Korea, Japan, Filipino, Myanmar, etc. Of course, the North Korea. The third one is in the Gulf arena between Israel and Iran. The fourth is surprisingly around Venezuela, you know, a country in the northern part of South America with huge oil reserves. Okay, it again comes back to what? Minerals, oil, reserves, economics. So 90% of the geopolitical issues are again economic issues. And the fifth one, remotely possible, okay, in the area that connects us with Pakistan, Afghanistan, and China. We all know Pakistan is a very irresponsible country, not a mature country, not a mature government at all. Coming back again to global economics, with this geopolitical threat, most of you must be reading what is happening to the gas supplies from Russia to Europe. Therefore, relationship between Germany and Russia, England and Russia, Germany and China, Germany, and I would say the rest of the world, around 30 to 35% of German exports happen to China alone. Germany, a well-known automobile manufacturing company, but Germany is also realizing now with the growing friendship between two communist countries, Russia and China, what would happen to the economies, okay, economies of the European countries tomorrow. But then again, there is an interesting difference, socio-economic difference between Russian communism and Chinese communism. Russian communism, when it comes to economics and society, okay, I call Russian communism as, I would say, organizational and robotic, much robotic. Okay, whereas the Chinese communism, they refer back to their ancient culture, etc., which their present president has been excessively referring to. So Chinese communism depends a lot today on the softer part of their diplomacy. That is the cultural China, the Mandarin language, Chinese philosophy, Chinese school of thought, etc., etc. So when we look at communism, socialism, communism is nothing but an overall ownership with the state of the country, government of the company, a country, lesser scope for entrepreneurship. That is what is exactly happening in China today. Socialism doesn't talk about ownership of wealth with the government as such, but it talks about equal distribution of wealth. And there comes the problem of what socialism doesn't recognize individual brightness, individual performances, okay, individual ideas, individual's capacity to innovate. Although way back in 1947, that was the need of the hour, Pandit Nehru accepted mixed economy, where there was a role for public sector, private sector, and today, even today, I agree that even today there is a role for public sector. I will come to that part little later. So, economics of survival, the title of my book. Half of the book offers discussion on global economic issues, India's economic issues, the economic issues the developing nations facing. Quite a few economic concepts which are not workable today. We need to change them. Say, for example, what is the status of an economy? Japan is a developed economy. Okay, जिसे हम कहते हैं प्रगत अर्थव्यवस्था. But then it has been economically stagnated for more than 2 decades now. There's a huge amount of capital available in Japanese banks. It's a Buddhist country, philosophically. But then if you look at the rate of growth in its GDP, per capita income growth, industrialization, the investment of Japanese capital in their own companies, investment outside Japan, not so much rewarding. Then we have to revisit the definition of a status of a developed economy. I'm taking you with very simple examples. Look at the ratio between American dollar and the India rupee. Say around 81, 82 rupees. Okay, little fluctuating. But then one may raise a question who may not really, like economics so much, would raise a very relevant question. Would say if the rate of growth in GDP of America is much lower than the rate of growth in GDP of India, then why Indian rupee is depreciating? There are quite a few other factors, reasons. But then we need to look at them very closely. What is the strength of Indian rupee vis-a-vis the other currencies from Southeast Asia and South Asia? Then you look at some of the global currencies, right? From euro to ruble, okay? Maybe uh, the currencies of the oil sector, sorry, the oil producing countries, okay? Euro very prominent, and then yen and yuan, of course, the other prominent currencies. How do you relate them to the American dollar? The point of discussion here is even today, the American dollar, okay, is very prominent for business exchanges, business valuations, two-party transactions, two-country transactions. Although China has been working very hectically, okay, to bring down the very weightage, the very importance of the American dollar. But I can again make a very humble statement here. The American dollar will remain prominent. The prominence may come down, but shall remain prominent for next 4 to 5 decades. The reason is business transparency, economic transparency. Although by birth I'm a Marwari, I'm just making a mention here. But I find, most of the American companies, the entrepreneurs, okay, are much more Marwari than me. Why do I make this statement here? For a very simple reason. Americans know what are their strengths and weaknesses in general. I'm talking about American policymakers, American senators, American entrepreneurs, not the common Americans. Therefore, the very strength of America is not just the military strength. It is also the strength of American democracy, free thought, okay, American liberalism, and that what exactly attracts the younger generation. Okay. And therefore, although China offers employment, China offers loans to smaller, weak countries. China has been working on its own agenda. But I can again make a research-based statement. There's a big question mark about the social, I would say, fragrance, social existence of Chinese economy. Why do I make a statement like this? If you visit China, you study China, you refer to your Chinese friends, nothing much is happening in the Chinese agricultural sector. Chinese poor villagers are not happy with the Chinese economic model. What is Chinese economic model? It is capitalism at the state level. The China government will get into business relationships with the foreign countries and foreign economies. And it is then the socialism, communism at the level of Chinese masses. So what China government says to the Chinese people, the youngsters, you want jobs? Done, given. You want economic prosperity? Done. You want good salaries, good housing, good roads, good infrastructure. Even if I make a statement here, you want sexual freedom. Okay, all that is offered. Don't talk about political freedom, expression of your own culture, religious freedom. No, China doesn't believe in a religion as a concept. Although some of us, wrongly feel that China is a Buddhist country. It is not. Communism doesn't believe in the classical concept of a religion. But then China's today's infrastructure, which is 35% idle, okay, not utilized. The villages are not happy. Rural folk is not happy. The rivers of China are slowly drying. Watering, water management is a big challenge. Air pollution is a big challenge. All these are known to most of us. But the biggest point here is Chinese entrepreneurship is getting restricted. Mr. G or she, whichever way you pronounce the name of the present president, okay, has a great feeling of insecurity. If the leader of an economy country has a feeling of insecurity, like Mr. Putin of Russia, a great feeling of insecurity, naturally, the future of the economy is also not so secure. For a very simple reason, what is your vision of Chinese economy, Russian economy, say in the year 2060? 2060 could be far off. I would say even 2045, 2040. There is a big question mark. Now, why do I share this background with you? On this big background, India looks prominent. India looks attractive. India looks, inviting. Yes, we are here. We are an open democracy. Okay, we believe in entrepreneurship. We believe in capitalism. We also believe in social equity that India has produced many social reformers, great social reformers. So philosophically also, we are a rich country and therefore India has become so much attractive. But then when we talk about status of an economy, we need to look at many independent and interdependent factors. Therefore, in my book, I'm talking about my book, I develop a development index, progress index of an economy. Okay, it comprises of quite a few parameters with different weightages. Why do I say different weightages? When you define a development index for a developed nation, developing nation, underdeveloped nation, the weightages would differ. How do you attach weightages to various parameters in an index of Ethiopia, Nigeria, Guatemala, for that matter? Okay, when you compare these economies with economies of India, Brazil, the BRIC group economies, the weightages would differ. But this is what we need to realize. Another very, very big concern for us, especially we Indians, is the concept of poverty. Poverty, the way it has been defined in America, my research says around 16%, 16% of Americans are poor. Poor in an American language, in an American environment. So poor American would definitely have a refrigerator, okay, good furniture in his house, and maybe a car. But yet he's poor by American definition in American context. And then there's an Indian poor. In India, one country, but there are three economies. If you look at India closely, one, a triangle in which we are sitting presently, a triangle that connects Indore, Ahmedabad, comes down to Mumbai, Pune, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai. Okay, an economically well-developed, rich triangle, big corporates, well-earning jobs, husband, wife, both are working. But then again, an expensive triangle, high economy, high earning, high cost of living. On the right side, eastern side of India, you have another, part of India, a big circle, which includes part of Andhra, part of Madhya Pradesh, entire Orissa, Bihar, eastern Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, and all those eastern states. I think most of you may agree with me. Even today, you visit Kolkata, a truck driver, bus driver, a car driver would enjoy his morning breakfast in 25 rupees. Okay, cost of living is cheap in that part of the country. Why? Because low economy, low income, low cost of living. Some of my friends from Kolkata, I visit Kolkata very often. I love this city culturally. Now, sometimes they used to make a statement earlier that we are equal when it comes to economics. I used to tease them, make a statement. Yeah, most of you are equal because most of you are poor. The equality based on poverty is not correct, is not acceptable. We should talk about equality based on prosperity, equal prosperity. हम सारे के सारे गरीब हैं, इसलिए हम सारे के सारे समान हैं. ये सोच गलत है. And therefore, the very subtitle of my book is Sustainable, Inclusive, Perpetual, Ethical, Transparent, Collective Prosperity. And therefore, I have discussed a concept in my book with the title Perpetual Economics, not communist economics, not socialist economics, not capitalist economics. I'm talking about perpetual economics based on pure humanism. Pure humanism. What does it mean? Economics with ethics. Okay, entrepreneurship with social responsibility. If I just make a reference here, corporate social responsibility CSR is a great concept. Most of Indian companies are doing some wonderful things in this arena of CSR. But before there was a CSR, if I make a reference here to a well-respected group like the Tatas have been doing so much philanthropic work, although they were not compelled. Today there is a CSR compulsion that a company should spend a certain percentage of their profit on CSR. This again is corporate economics, business economics, that part of my profit I should give back to the society. But then can we think of a model without those confusing isms? Okay, that takes us to equitable, transparent, ethical, sustainable, inclusive economics for all of us. But that comes back to what? We're revisiting some of the very vital concepts in economics. I bring you back to poverty. So how do we define poverty? I visited almost all the states of India before writing this book. I went to the interiors of South India, North India, East India, West India, met farmers, workers, okay, house workers, women, children, youth, etc., etc. To arrive at definition of poverty. If you ask me, in the western side of India, the triangle which I mentioned to you, I would call a family to be poor, a family of 4 or a family of 6. In Indian definition of a family, we include parents also, which is very vital and very correct. But then I would call a family to be poor. A family is poor, not an individual. A family is poor if its monthly income is less than rupees 30,000, 30. Okay, which includes the family's basic cost of living, basic needs, food, shelter, education, medical treatment, etc. But then poverty, definition of poverty should also include the salary income should also include at least 10 to 15% portion of the salary should be tomorrow's savings. हमारे यहाँ क्या होता है? A guy is standing in the very middle of a river, a poor fellow. Okay, we simply see that वो डूबता भी नहीं है और नदी के बाहर आता भी नहीं है. उसे हम डूबने भी नहीं देते और बाहर आने भी नहीं देते. That is our unfortunate definition of poverty. You can search on Google what is the government definition of Indian poverty. And I would make a very humble statement. If you look at that definition, it is horrifying. Okay, I'm not making any statistical reference to that definition. The point here is we must revisit definition of poverty. The third concept, which is also very important, how do we define economic equilibrium? That my economy of my country, okay, has got a fantastic equilibrium. Now, I could develop a 3x3 matrix. What is this 3x3 matrix? We define classically 3 sectors of an economy: manufacturing, agriculture, and service. Of course, one may add the fourth one today, which includes nanotechnology, artificial intelligence, etc. Is the fourth one, which is more important: information-based, system-based, technology-based sector. But traditionally, even if you look at these 3 sectors, how do we take care of these 3 sectors? In classical economics, the Western economists, kept on talking about wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. Okay, so it was like, the first generation reforms, second generation reforms, third generation reforms. So their first reference was to agriculture, second was to manufacturing, third was to service, etc. But that is not enough. We need to look at all these sectors together. For a very simple reason, they are interdependent. Okay, where is our manufacturing base today? The rate of growth in GDP of manufacturing sector is not very promising. Investment in manufacturing, not promising. Agriculture, I would love to come to this platform again only to talk about agriculture. We have done a lot of consulting work in agriculture, therefore research also in agriculture. Just to make a reference, most of you would wonder to know 90% of farmers in India do not know what has been done with the pricing formula of agricultural produce. There are 3 formulae. How do you do the costing and pricing of agricultural produce? 90% farmers do not know. And therefore, they're far away from the concept of investment in agriculture, ROI on cultivable land, valuation of a cultivable land. They don't know. There is no financial or economic literacy among 90% of Indian farmers. 10% rich, I would say well facilitated farmers, okay, are only unfortunately visible to we city dwellers. And therefore, very often we feel, oh, these rich farmers and their children, they enjoy so much, they enjoy tax haven, there is no taxation, etc. We forget to look at the remaining 90% small farmers or farmless farmers. Now, I'm taking you to the equilibrium 3 by 3. The three traditional sectors, classical, I just made a mention. So who are the performers? Small SMEs, private sector corporates, and number three, public sector enterprises. We simply can't neglect them. Why? Because out of around 144, 142 crore India population, at least 80 crore people today, even today, are hovering around the poverty line. Okay, low income group and poor people, not less than 80 crore. They are the bottom of the pyramid of our economy. Now, if these people are not taken care of, okay, the rate of growth in our GDP won't be sustainable. We got a fantastic rate of growth during the Manmohan Singh Raj. Also, the initial years of Modi Raj, the rate has been promising, but then where is the rate today? Forget Corona period. Corona is now history. What next? That comes to this equilibrium where the Americans lost. As I mentioned to you, I do not believe in any ism. I do not believe in socialism, communism, extreme or crony capitalism. No, not at all. I believe in fair entrepreneurship, transparent entrepreneurship. And we have fantastic examples, corporate examples, right from Tata's, Godrej, okay, even people like Mr. Azim Premji, Narayan Murthy. You take the names, the examples are there. There are quite a few Maharashtrian examples also. The point I'm making here is Americans make a mistake of excessive privatization. Excessive, huh? Privatization, public sector enterprises, public sector banks, they have a certain role. Okay, we hurriedly implemented, okay, the concept of banking transactions, online transactions. Even today, 70% of the transactions are not online. Villagers are realizing, villagers are, realizing they are coming back to online transactions. Even a sabji wala would be happy if you pay him online. I agree. The point here is we need to look at those 80 crore people, and therefore we have to look at those 5, 6 basic needs. Unless we bring them out of poverty, unless we bring them out of their present state of affairs and bring them to the track of development, track of progress, that all comes back to what that all needs what capability development. अब हमारे यहाँ स्टार्टअप, इंडिया फर्स्ट, India realization, independence, economic independence, all these concepts are being discussed. But all this would be possible if there is a real capability development. And that comes back to what? Defining poverty correctly. In my book, I have also discussed a model how and where the rich can contribute. The rich, the American rich, the Indian rich, the Russian rich, the Chinese rich, how can they contribute? Not emotionally, yeah? No emotions here. If the 5% rich contribute with a little excessive wealth tax, income tax for 5 years, I have developed a statistical, I would say numerical kind of a model also. If they contribute, see, ultimately we all say in economics, a manufacturer can benefit if people buy. People to buy, people should have purchasing power. You can't run factories, service sector, etc. just with 20% of Indian population. Although that 20% has contributed well to our GDP. How do we look at the 80%? Their purchasing power. If you look at that purchasing power, we can come back to 11 to 13% rate of growth in GDP. That could be fantastic. That would create not only jobs, would finance our infrastructure. Look at road construction. My friend Mr. Gadkari has done a wonderful job. But then what is the financing model over there? huge amount of loans, borrowing. The organization that takes lead in road construction, look at its debt equity ratio, borrowing to own fund is worrisome. What does it mean? People should contribute to nation building. When people would contribute to nation building, if we improve their purchasing power. How do we do that? If we revisit the concept of poverty, we see that they earn well. अब यहाँ मजाक हमारा ऐसा होता है, हमारे यहाँ दोगलापन भी बहुत है. When I talk about a salary of 30,000 for a family, when it comes to my personal driver, I'm not ready to pay him more than 22,000 in a city like Mumbai. When it comes to my personal preferences, I want to save my cost. I want to see that I exploit my driver, I exploit my house worker. ऐसे कैसे चलेगा? I am the present president of Mumbai Grahak Panchayat, a wing of Vile Parle. We have been working a lot for Grahak, consumers, customers. But I've been now emphasizing, I've been insisting, requesting the top management of Mumbai Grahak Panchayat that we need to look at the slum dwellers. We need to look at 80 crore people. How can they buy together, save together, work together so that the pyramid of our economy, becomes strong. The base of the pyramid becomes strong. Friends, there are so many concepts we need to revisit. We really need to revisit. Role of bureaucracy. Yesterday it was ICS. Today it is IAS. We have worked very closely with many senior, intelligent, capable IAS officers. We did an assignment for the World Bank also that connected me with the IAS officers of West Bengal, Assam, Bihar, etc. But then the point here is our bureaucracy economically enlightened? They are great. They are very good when it comes to general administration. Look at the IAS officers in Pune city. When it comes to civil administration, yeah, they are wonderful. They are intelligent. They are smart. But then to what extent they understand economics? Again, without any isms, our bureaucracy should understand the union budget thoroughly, not just a few of them, not just the finance secretary from the Minister of Finance and Banking. Why do I make this statement? What percentage of our budget presently, or I would even say historically, we have been spending on education, medication, infrastructure, especially education? Okay, what is that quality of education we are offering to common Indian people? Can a son of a politician, son of an industrialist afford to go to a government school? Okay, he should. And that is a major indicator of our economic growth, economic prosperity. That the quality of public schools, when I say public schools, I am talking about government run schools, is so great, so good that even a child of an industrialist, a child of a bureaucrat, a child of a rich guy should prefer to go to a government school. Same is applicable to infrastructure. When we go abroad, when we visit Germany, Netherlands, when we visit London, England, we find rich people traveling by public transport. The quality of public transport, even in US or Canada for that matter, is very good. Now, can I imagine an industrialist in Pune city traveling by Pune bus or by Mumbai local in Mumbai? Now, that comes back to what we are working on. In economics, we call it public goods. What is the quality quantum of our public goods? They build up the economy. But who drives these public goods? Bureaucracy. Politicians come and go. Ministers come and go. A ruling party today is ruling, maybe tomorrow in opposition, but who remains in the system is the bureaucracy. Worldwide, the senators in America, okay, or the conservative or the Labour Party of England or in India, whether it is BJP or Congress. Okay, what matters a lot is the quality of bureaucracy, because the equilibrium of an economy is a major responsibility of the bureaucrats. Different types of bureaucrats. They are not just IAS, they are IRS, Indian Revenue Service. Okay, they are from various public sector enterprises, banks. I would even call them, the banking bureaucrats, the public sector bureaucrats. They are intelligent. They are workaholic. Given the opportunity, they would do wonders. Look at the example of Amul. Okay, Mr. Varghese, Padma Shri, Padma Bhushan, Padma Vibhushan and whatnot. Okay, that kind of a model where I'm coming to now in my last part of my presentation, what we need for Indian economy or even world economy, bringing people together. I have designed a model for Indian farmers. Indian farmers can come together through three stages. The stage one, they come together without a legal bondage, but they conduct their processes together. Procurement, cultivation, cutting, storing, distribution, logistic. Okay, and that gives them economy of scale. They save on cost. They also understand costing pricing. They become a dominant player, dominant group at the Krushi Mandis. You visit any Krushi Mandi in Pune district, which I have widely traveled, you would find a small farmer has no role. Exceptions are there. So why does this happen? Because farmers are not together. They are divided. They are divided into caste, religion, color, language, size, okay, blind beliefs, etc., etc. Now this took me to the next part of my discussion, which I have presented in my book, Impact of Religion on Economics. Huge impact. We have quite a few clients in the Gulf countries. We did a lot of work for the economies of Oman, UAE, for that matter, Dubai, Muscat, etc. And what is the realization there? Impact of religion. And therefore, I find the productivity of an average Omani, of an average Arab in Dubai is not even 1/3 of the productivity of an Indian laborer working there. And interestingly, the salary of a local Omani or the local Dubai wala is 3 times of the salary of an Indian worker or Pakistani worker. So there is a 3 into 3, 9 time difference. Therefore, most of the economies of the Gulf countries are run by, okay, we Indians on operational level, although maybe headed by Europeans and Americans. Why am I making this statement with a feeling of pride? Can we bring down that kind of productivity, understanding, maturity to India? That should take us to the very foundation of perpetual economics. That is what I want to share with you. I look at 4 principles, 4 parameters, okay, defining perpetual economics for a common man. What are these 4 parameters? Economic prosperity. Very important. Number 2, intellectual satisfaction, intellectual pursuits, innovation. Now, look at India, last 4 or 5 centuries, may not be 1.01% of the researches done by Europeans, Americans, Koreans have been done in India. Let us be very honest. Okay, we have great cultural legacies, I agree. But then when it comes to innovation, invention, including the corporate world, we haven't done much remarkable. That is intellectual pursuit. We must tell our children that they must raise questions why and how. Even our children learning economics, studying economics in colleges and universities must challenge the economic theories. Why and how? Okay, which we don't allow. We simply make a very blunt statement, Shastro mein likha hai, at least up to my generation. Okay, I didn't dare to ask my father, my uncle, my mama. Why? The reply was शास्त्रों में लिखा है. अब शास्त्रों को किसने लिखा ये हमें पता नहीं. शास्त्र किसने पढ़े हमें पता नहीं. Okay, so intellectual pursuit, inquiry, reasoning, very important. Number 3, okay, which is very sensible in India is social equity and equality. Samajik samta. A lot has been done by all the consecutive governments of India, even state governments. I agree. Okay, but yet there is a systemic failure. There is a systemic flaw that the amount that should reach a poor doesn't reach enough, doesn't reach on time. Okay, we need to look at it. We claim so much about the IT industry. We have been exporter of IT products to America, Europe. But then the same thing we want to apply here. Okay, we are not very efficient. Look at the Grameen Bank of Bangladesh. Professor Mohammad Yunus, who gave up his job in America, went down to his home country, Bangladesh. Okay, he believed more in the honesty of women. that, although I'm a male, I'm a man, I also accept very honestly, collectively, in general, women are slightly more sincere, more honest than men collectively. I mean, this could be debatable, but I'm just making a very frank statement. So Muhammad Yunus saw that women come together, women entrepreneurs come together, they're financed by the Grameen Bank, a very interesting model based on the concept of cooperation. Cooperation, cooperative societies, okay, is a great donation done by Maharashtra, Gujarat, and Karnataka. The example of Amul, I just refer to, especially Maharashtra. But then over a period of time, it was misused. We need to revisit the concept of cooperation when we try to apply it to agriculture. I mentioned to you level one. Level two, they're coming together legally and bringing out, making a big balance sheet of a cooperative society so that their mortgaging improves, their borrowing capacity improves, okay, their capacity to present to the outside world, their produce improves. That is level two. Level three, extending the value chain of agriculture, agro-based products, agro-based industry. Okay, if you add 20% value, the farmer may get 50% price advantage. That is what the reality is. Okay, you differentiate between a small burger, big burger, okay, a chicken burger. There is a incremental value 10%, but the price increases by 20, 30, 40%. That has to be applied to agriculture. And then number four, very, very important, the farmers coming together and thinking about their great civilizations, which we find during the Mohenjo-daro Harappa days. I call them Sindhujan. Our agriculture, our logistic, transportation, the role of women in agriculture, trade, business, etc. was great. We need to revisit, and therefore we need to connect that part of our history, Prachin Itias, to today's economics. Now, the second one I said intellectual pursuits. Third, I said social equity, equality. Fourth is very interesting and where we Indians are doing a wonderful job, and that is cultural bliss, cultural satisfaction. Whenever I talk to my Buddhist friends, I studied all religions before, writing this book. Buddhism, Buddhist philosophy, Gautam Buddha, we call him Tathagat, great personality, great enlightenment. Okay, the Mahar community from Maharashtra, followers of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, en masse accepted Buddhism. They, very rightly encash on the reservation policy. Today, it is that community which is doing very well economically, culturally, professionally, okay, even in business also. But then when it comes to cultural bliss, there are two sides of it. One, cultural bliss is very important, but that cultural bliss should be without blind beliefs, should be without any exploitation. To what extent are youth, जिन्हें मैं बहुजन कहता हूं, there are bahujans and there are abhijans. Abhijan, the upper class, bahujan, the lower class. The lower class bahujan is around 85% of India population, including OBCs, SCs, STs, etc., etc. So for them, cultural bliss is important because their cultural bliss takes them away from their economic, financial tension, stress. But there has to be a balancing act. Okay, so cultural activities are important, but cultural bliss, cultural activities without blind belief. हमें विवेक पे काम करना होगा, हमें विज्ञान पे काम करना होगा. And that is what we need to tell Bahujans, 85% of our population. What is important is reasoning, scientific temperament. All that takes us to ultimately to socio-economic reasoning. With the permission, I mean, I assume the permission granted. Okay, with an open eyes, with open eyes, with openness of mind, look at the horizontal belt of India, which starts from the southern part of West Bengal, Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, Rajasthan, part of Uttaranchal. Yeah, my forefathers, they belong to Rajasthan, migrated, okay, in 1910 to Pune city. And that is how today we belong to Maharashtra. But this horizontal belt of India, even today, I have traveled through this belt extensively during last 35, 36 years. This belt, economically, socially, culturally, in general, some of the members of the audience may disagree with me, may not like my statement, but the reality, this belt even today is mostly backward. Some exceptional portions are there. Okay, portions which are okay, like Noida, vagara, close to Delhi, or a portion close to Lucknow, or a portion close to Patna. These are exceptions. But look at the horizontal belt. Okay, now this all comes back to what? An open discussion on a topic called impact of religion on economics. The Europeans, including today's Americans, they separated religion from governance, religion from business, religion from economics, and therefore they economically, materially prospered. They prospered. Let us accept our children are tomorrow's generation, my children, your children, they visit US, they visit London, Australia, Singapore for their MS, for their MBA, for their further education. Why? Because there is a educational gap of around 40-50 years between they and us. Okay. Now, all these are challenging tasks for all of us. And all these will ultimately contribute to perpetual economics. In my book, the second part of the book offers different types of solutions. Some of them could be debatable. How do we improvise bureaucracy? Equilibrium of an economy. Role of capital. Different types of capital. There can be a lot of debate here on patents, process patents, product patents, patents versus copyrights. Okay, how much should be profiteering from my own patent? Okay, so when do I hand over my patent to public? When do I deposit my patent in the government treasury? My book on Krishnaniti, I just make a reference to it, also has got a reference to Krishna's philosophy of creating wealth. There was a big entrepreneur in the city of Dwarka. Okay, he developed some kind of, I would say, systemic solution in the area of metallurgy. Okay, and then he earned a lot through that metallurgy model. He earned a lot. Krishna requested him. Krishna said, "You earn a lot. Now, why don't you hand it over to the public, the people of Dwarka? Let other people also prosper." Now, this again is the other side of we creating a model of we building a model of perpetual economics. I agree. Profit for capital, rent for landlord, salary for a worker, okay, interest for a lender. These are very basic concepts in economics. The question is, how do we deal with them socially? Okay, can there be a reasonable benchmarking? Maybe I would just share with you in corporate finance, my other book, Strategic Financial Management, we did a lot of research on benchmarking of an ROI. Across India, can there be a concept of economy level generic ROI? What minimum ROI, return on investment, any Indian businessman today in 2023 on 29 July should earn? Many SMEs, especially SMEs, even corporate CFOs are not aware of their baseline ROI. They refer to statistical averaging of last 5-6 years, industry ROI, industry average. Okay, some of them would simply say my ROI should be simply double of the bank interest rate, etc., etc. Economics does a lot of wonder here. We digged out data of last 89 years, 80-90 years, and we could design, when I say we, I and my wife together, okay, a formula for generic ROI. Why do I say this? Simply because unless we have dependable, realistic, reasonable benchmarks, earning benchmarks, we are not able to guide our SMEs. We are not able to guide our farmers for that matter. Okay, we are not even able to guide our startups. Okay, in the life cycle of a startup, life cycle of an enterprise, what should be the journey of an ROI? How do you do your journey? Is also part of economics. Unfortunately, in India, just for the information of my audience here, we separated economics from corporate finance. Corporate finance is business economics. Managerial economics is a subset of economics. We can't separate them. We can't isolate them. And now, in the last 5 minutes of my presentation, the daunting challenge in India and elsewhere, okay, across the globe, to build up perpetual economics is what? Widespread corruption. My book presents 7 types of corruption. And the most dangerous corruption is ideological corruption, which leads to the remaining 6 types of corruption: academic, educational, economic or financial, cultural, social, administrative, etc. Ideological corruption, most dangerous. Mind of the great Hitler was ideologically corrupt. Okay? But there what? Today Germans don't hesitate to accept, to admit. Yes, our leader earlier, Mr. Hitler, was ideologically corrupt. Friends, if I make a little blunt statement here, we need to work on many issues which come back to ideological corruption. I see many of my relatives in my community. I'm making a general statement. Even in quite a few other business communities also. There's a daunting task, there's a big challenge of this ideological corruption, which again connects us to making profit versus profiteering, defining an ROI, defining monopolies, oligopolies, and therefore connecting ourselves okay, to the concept of competition control, competition law. So when Adam Smith and Lord Keynes, they spoke for open economy, free market, capitalism, okay, it was great. But then that also required what? A monitoring system. You need to monitor the role of capital, the role of public sector, the role of private capital, role of ideas. We need to monitor in the interest of innocent masses. And I don't call it any ism. It is not socialism. It is not communism. हमारे यहाँ एक दुख भरी बात क्या होती है? अगर हम किसी गरीब के लिए काम करते हैं, कोई स्टेटमेंट करते हैं, so people with the so-called vested interest, they would suddenly call Dr. Jakhotiya, oh, Dr. Jakhotiya is becoming communist. Dr. Jakhotiya is becoming socialist. They forget that this long-term stability of an economy depends a lot, rather I would say depends mainly on the purchasing power of masses. Although geographically Germany is small, but look at the per capita income in Germany. Okay, among all the European economies, German economy is different. Why? Because they could correlate their SMEs very well to their economy. We have 6 crore SMEs in India, 6 crore. And look at the quantum of employment they generate compared to the big MNCs working in India. Okay, so you look at employment generation done by Walmart or by Amazon versus employment generation done by an Indian SME. An Indian small shop in Pune, annual turnover maybe hardly 20-30 lakh rupees. A small shop, a small grocery shop. But he employs himself and 2 workers with him. So there is an employment of 3 people. Okay, three employment, three categories. Sorry, 3 people get employment with an annual turnover of rupees 20 lakh. I'm told Walmart global turnover last year was around 2 lakh crore rupees with 2 lakh employees. So employment generation was 1 employee for a turnover of 1 crore, whereas my SME generates employment for 3 for a turnover of 20 lakh. And that too connecting with local culture, local population. So I think, friends,
Yes, sir.
we must stop. Although the subject is very engaging, very interesting to me, to you, my humble request, all of you, you can have a look at my book. Although it is little exhaustive as Mr. Balani mentioned to you, but I have attempted as far as possible a simple language. आप पढ़िए. I'll be very happy as an author to receive, accept your suggestions for improvisation because I always believe in improvisation. So I again thank you, the BDB Book Club, BDB India Private Limited, Mr. Mani, Mr. Balani, and my friend Mr. Marker from Godrej and Boys. They gave me this opportunity to present what I wrote in my book. And now I think we can get into the question answer session.
Yes, yes. Thank you, Dr. Jakhotiya. Wonderful session we had. It was very engaging. I think it's such a wide topic, such a vast topic to cover up itself. The session would fall short. So, but whatever we have covered, I would request the audience to, if you have any queries, questions, or any clarifications, or anything that you would like to share, please you can use the icons, emojis to raise the hand. Our team will attend you. and enable the mic and camera. Yes, we have already started receiving Mr. Manish Gujjar. I'll just turn on the mic and camera. Mr. Gujjar, your mic and camera is enabled.
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks. Thanks, Dr. Girish. Really wonderful to hear you. And I will definitely go and read the book. I just wanted to hear your perspective about the NATO's presence in the European sector, and how is that going to impact India and to what extent?
Maybe to answer your question briefly, we welcome Russian crude oil to India. Now, in global economics and global politics, uh, there are no shortcuts and there are no compartments with which we define what is good, what is bad, what is right and what is wrong. In the interest of my economy, short term and long term, if I go for a strategy which otherwise looks contradictory, in a sense, some of us may be thinking why we do not look at Ukraine, the suffering that is happening in Ukraine, and Russia's encroachment. I fully agree. But then the other side of the problem challenge here is China. There is a growing friendship between China and Russia. Okay. Now, to what extent the Americans would suddenly come to our rescue when it is going to be, if it is going to be a big challenge, big problem. तो हमें रशिया के साथ हमारी मित्रता बरकरार रखनी है. And as it is, Russia has been our old friend. I am not endorsing Russian encroachment, not at all. Absolutely wrong. But then, Mr. Gorbachev, if you remember the earlier Russian great leader, it was big USSR. He saw that it is brought to a certain size. Now, Mr. Putin, this is what is coming to ideological corruption. Mr. Putin thinks that it should be the original USSR. And therefore, if he thinks that Ukraine is mine, tomorrow Poland is mine, Kazakhstan is mine, okay, that is the direction in which Mr. Putin is traveling. Yeah. Therefore, first compartment is oil. I simply answered. The second bigger compartment is Russia should be on our side when it comes to a growing conflict between India and China. And it is going to grow. We can't believe Chinese. That is what we learned in the 1962 war also. Our that time Prime Minister also unfortunately learned. This is the bigger side of the Ukraine-Russia war when it comes to we Indians. Then there are smaller components, the minerals from Ukraine, commodities from Ukraine. Okay, they are also very important. And therefore, all of us would love to see that the war stops. But then when it comes to the European group, the European military group supported by America, that is another dimension of the war between Ukraine and Russia. There could be a conclusion by the experts in political sciences. Is America doing a proxy war against Russia, testing its weaponaries, technology, financial muscle power, sanctions by engaging Ukraine with Russia? To an extent, I would say yes. Okay, but then again, is it good in the interest of Americans, American economy? There can be a big debate here. That is what my brief answer to your question. Can we welcome the next question?
Yes. We have a next question coming from Miss Pankaja Kulapkar.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah. So awesome presentation, Dr. Jakhotiya. And I have two
Thank you.
questions. You did mention about the pain which you feel with the IS officers, where if they were economics enlightened, it would be a different perspective. So I'm just thinking, any insights from you on how? So maybe the economics syllabus and the way it is taught in colleges, that must be addressed. So your insights on that, A. And B, I'm the recent author of one book, and I had joined early. I heard this is your 27th book. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Yeah,
right?
22nd.
27, 22nd
22nd.
book.
Yeah.
Okay. And I would love to hear from you. How do you keep your motivation after one book after another? So these two are my questions.
The first question, when you refer to IIS, maybe if I share with you the Maharashtrian example, the latest position I do not know, but the managing director of a finance company, government finance company called SICOM. You may be aware of SICOM, you know. So the CEO of SICOM always used to be an IS officer. Okay, we did some work with SICOM, and I worked with the CEO, an IS officer. I could realize that he's a good administrator, but then you can imagine a non-banking finance company like SICOM. Okay, it requires a lot of technical expertise from the capital market, which an IS officer lacks. And you know, when you are a leader in a certain industry or a company, how do you monitor the performances of your subordinates if you do not understand your business well? You can't even, you know, appreciate the KRAs or KPIs, which are so heavily technical. Okay, there what, you know, I'm coming to. Therefore, my suggestion for the IS lobby is like the American model, or for that matter, the German model. They should have technocrats, good technocrats with a social awareness as their advisors. Okay, but that again comes back to what an IS officer basically realizing, accepting that, you know, he's not Sarvatne. He would understand everything, would study everything. That is not possible. Rather, he's a good coordinator. He can coordinate many intelligent minds to deliver social goods. That is my answer to your first question. The second question you raise, okay, self-motivation is best motivation. I fully agree with you. I'm now 62 plus. Okay, but then, you know, I have 3 more books in the pipeline to complete. Yeah. Why? Because when I look at, you know, a slum dweller from Pune, if I go to a Gauthan of Pune, I suddenly feel, am I doing enough for them? Am I doing enough for them? Okay. If we raise this question to ourselves, you know, am I doing enough for the downtrodden people? That motivates you. Okay. And that perhaps, you know, the best motivation. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, madam. We await for any other question, please. Yes, we have. We have this from Mr. Mayur Patel. Mr. Patel, your mic and camera is enabled. You can proceed with your question.
Yeah, Girish Saab, what a wonderful sharing, and what an in-depth research you and your wife have done. Very appreciable. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Great,
Yeah.
great. I've joined from Ahmedabad, and first time BDB invitations. I keep getting, so wonderful work by Mr. Mani and team since last 12 years, 13 years. And I think one thing which is coming to my mind, these great thoughts which you have gathered by way of research. I mean, how this can be brought to a level of action, because I think the biggest challenge for every good thought and idea and understanding is how we can bring it to action and realize its fruits. You gave some good examples of farmers in Pune and around,
Yeah.
which we are seeing at other places also. But this looking at this 85% population of the country and this equal distribution, equality. I mean, how do you see it happening in terms of, what common man can do actually, the country?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to answer your question, one small step a common man can take, a person like you or me, is spreading financial literacy among the innocent masses. Okay, I'll be very happy. You are from Ahmedabad. If there is a big group or a social club, maybe Rotary Alliance or your manufacturing association, if you gather a big crowd from the Bahujans masses, okay, we can think of some kind of financial literacy program. Of course, I can't speak Gujarati, although I can understand Gujarati. But then, you know, this is my answer to your question.
Hindi is good enough, sir.
Can we spread financial literacy? Okay,
I think that's a very important point you have made, actually.
Yeah.
And yes, I think that's a fantastic idea. Let me work something around, because I'm part of CII Ahmedabad Gujarat panel. 2 panels
Great.
I am represent, MSME and HR panel. And I also am chapter president of National HRD Network, Ahmedabad chapter.
Oh, very good.
So there are platforms where I think these good thoughts we can bring in, and we can invite you. Thank you very much. I'll get in touch with you later.
Welcome. Yeah.
Moving further, thank you. First of all, thank you, Mr. Patel. And as we move further, we have another question. Mr. Prashant Shravak is online. Mr. Shravak, your good afternoon and over to you, sir. Your mic and camera is enabled.
Yeah. Good afternoon, doctor. Doctor, you had been my teacher, so thank you for getting connected once again.
Good afternoon.
The industry is changing, where you briefly mentioned from agriculture to industries to IT to artificial intelligence, so on and so forth. So, what would be your advice on managing personal finance? Because earning patterns are also changing. So can you just advise us?
Of course, it requires good amount of elaboration. But then as an author, I would request you, I and my wife, we have co-authored a very simple book with the title Finance Made Simple, available on Amazon. And the last chapter of the book deals with the question which you raise, personal finance. Okay, where you should invest, what ROI you should expect, fighting inflation, looking after savings, real income, etc. So my request to you, it's a very simple book, Finance Made Simple, because answering personal finance, personal investment requires a lot of elaboration. But one thing I should also tell you that when it comes to personal investment, an investor should basically know what ROI he should expect. 90% of middle class Indian investors are not aware what average ROI they should expect from their portfolio, investment portfolio. Okay, I think if you remember during my presentation, I made a mention about formulating that ROI. There is a business ROI and there is a personal ROI. Okay, so this personal ROI simplified. My request to you, if you can refer to this book, all your answers questions would get answered. Even we have given a table of portfolio mix. Okay, what percentage of your savings, your investment should go into each component of your investment portfolio. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, Doctor, thank you so much for your session. Just one quick question to you on, you talked about the poverty line being at 3.6 lakhs a year. Can you throw some light as to how this number was arrived, and also why is the government's number much lower than this? So can you just throw some light on this, and what
No,
can you do?
Can you repeat the first statement which you made? Which number you were?
You're talking about the poverty line being 3.6 lakhs.
3.6 lakhs.
Yeah,
No. I said, yeah. I said there should be a monthly income of rupees 30,000. Okay, referring to the.
So why is the government's number much lower?
It is low for obvious reasons. Okay, see the point here is if you look at 30,000 per month, then the size of population below poverty line increases. A very simple, obvious answer to your query. When I say 30,000 should be monthly income or 3.6 lakh rupees annual income, then the size of population that is below the poverty line is much bigger.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how's this number that you arrived at? How was that number arrived?
We studied many poor families from Maharashtra and North Karnataka and South Gujarat. Okay, the sample size, if you call it sample size, was of around 5,000 families, including farmers, workers, etc., etc. And we refer to their 6 primary needs. Okay, as I made a mention, for a family of 4 to 6. Okay, the Western concept of a family is 4 members, parents and 2 children, whereas our concept is grandparents, parents and 2 children. Okay, so it was an average of data that we gathered, and we could reach 30,000. This 30,000 also includes rupees 5,000. Okay, his monthly saving. Unless he saves, okay, unless he builds up his capital, there is no chance for him to come out of poverty. Yeah. So element-wise, we gathered the figures. What should be his cost of education, capability development, himself, his skill development, his children and their skill development.
Thank you. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank
Very
you.
insightful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Any more question we have? Uh, I don't see any hand raised by now. So before we, in fact, I have one question,
Okay.
Jitendra here. Okay, I think just we are at the closing time now, but I'll just out of my curiosity, I'll ask this. See, on this July, we completed the 54 years of bank nationalization, since it was the socialist government initiated that move. And when we look at the current state of banks, particularly the public sector banks, it is far more bad. Yes, they have given us the reach to the rural sector in terms of reaching out to the masses. But if you see the private sector banks are the one which are doing much more profitable. During your mention, you did mention, we have to have collectively working towards having a public sector as well as private sector working in tandem. But in today's Indian context, we are looking at the public national banks which are eroding the money. There is a complete erosion taking place. Do you think that balance can be made between private and public sector? What are your views and suggestions?
My first very blunt view is we must stop politicization of public sector banks. I'm referring to the recruitments of public sector bank CEOs, the board members of a large size bank like State Bank of India, Canara Bank, which are doing a wonderful job. Most of the retired executives from public sector banks are heading cooperative banks. Okay, quite a few senior executives in private sector banks, I don't name them, have been borrowed from public sector banks. So there's a huge amount of expertise, knowledge, banking knowledge in the public sector. Okay, but then it should be utilized in the right direction. Okay, so there is a concept in banking, a negative concept, we call it name lending. Name lending. Okay, so a small SME, a small entrepreneur going to a bank has to produce n number of papers, evidences, mortgages, securities to get a loan. Okay, but when it comes to a big industrial group, an industrialist referring to a bank, getting a loan, the process is very simple for him. Okay, this imbalance will have to be checked somewhere. Okay, and the first statement which I made, we must stop the direct, indirect politicization of public sector banks. Okay, and then there is also in banking language we call it credit appraisal, credit distribution, credit monitoring, where most of the public sector banks have great systems. Their systems are very good, but we need to revisit those in the interest of SMEs and farmers. A lot can be done in the interest of SMEs and farmers.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much,
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Jakhotiya. I think we had a wonderful session. Now we'll come to a conclusion of it. We are almost on time. First of all, I must say that, in a very humble way, you have actually delivered a master stroke through your book. And I have enjoyed reading a small part of the book, which I've already started. And it will take some time. But today's session, is something which is really interesting. And I would also request the audience to do share your comments and feedback about the book in the chat box. That is something that we would it means a lot. And in fact, what we have heard from Dr. Jakhotiya so far is just a small trailer. I think if you start going through the book, there are so many different views, perspectives, knowledge that the book explores, and that is something which makes this book a very worth reading and having as a copy in your complete set of books. So with this, I would like to thank all the members who for their participation and also being present for the session. I hope this has delivered a value. We would like to hear from you in the comment box. Do share with us. And big thanks to Mr. Marker for giving us the reference. And also, Dr. Jakhotiya, thank you so much for your wonderful wisdom sharing of knowledge that we had. I think more and more we would like to engage with you for your upcoming books, and also best wishes for the same. Before we conclude, I would also like to announce as to about our forthcoming sessions. So what we are going to have next month on 26th of August, that is fourth Saturday of the month, we have another such eminent author with us. Dr. Ganesh Natarajan would be with us, and he would be talking about his book, India's Pathways to Success. So I think this is a topics that we have which are largely talking about the nation building, the different ways. So there is another book in the similar lines, and we would send you the invites in the first week of August by email. In case you are not receiving our emails, or you would like us to share or receive these emails or share with others, do write to us on the email ID mentioned below at the rate Jeet Balani at the rate bdbipl.com. We will ensure that each month, each time, you will receive the invitation from us. And we will continue to deliver the success, continue to consistently bring out authors who will be able to share their wisdom on very interesting topics. And also, if at all there are certain topics that you would like us to cover, please do share with us. Write to us on the email ID mentioned. Till then, we would conclude this session. Thank you so much for the participation and being present here. And till then, we would look forward to seeing you again on 26th of August. Thank you, everyone. With this, we conclude the session.